Hi everybody and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. On this video we have a post from Am I the A-hole with an update, one from Tales from Your Server and one from Petty Revenge. So if you want to get started with the stories, then just use the timestamps below the video. Now I'd like to thank all of you that support me and my videos. It means a lot to me that you do, so thank you so much and I hope you keep enjoying the content. And if this is the first time watching one of my videos and you like it, then consider subscribing to the channel and joining us on Discord. Now let's get started with today's stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user ThrowAwayGF1223. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my mother-in-law in the middle of the night? Some background. I, 32 male, and my wife, 25 female, have been together for 5 years and married for 3 and are expecting our son right now. We had our ups and downs when we first got together because I was fresh out of an abusive relationship and I was her first boyfriend. I had always noticed that she was really demeaning about herself and she was always really disappointed in herself, and this was just 6 months into our relationship. And it hurt to see her like that since she is an amazing woman. I convinced her to go to therapy, and to help her we would do couples therapy because I did really love her in that short amount of time. During therapy I learned that her parents were narcissists who only loved her brother, their golden child, and when she relayed the abuse she faced, I honestly cried. That whole experience made us the strong couple we are today and the strong woman she is today. Back to the present. My mother-in-law and father-in-law have gotten a little better over the years, which is why we changed to low contact from our no contact position. My mother-in-law came to visit us, they live overseas, since my wife is pregnant, and even though it has been only a week, my wife's mood has completely dimmed. One night, when we were sleeping, my wife went to get some juice since she was craving it while I went to the washroom, and came back to see a glass on the floor and my mother-in-law shouting at my wife. I couldn't handle my anger and shouted at her to get out and told her if she didn't I was gonna call the police, so she begrudgingly got out of the house. I calmed my wife down and she told me mother-in-law had gotten mad at her cause she wanted to drink apple juice because it's bad for the baby and how she doesn't deserve to have a baby if she wanted to kill it. I am now getting calls from her family saying I am an a-hole because I kicked her out, and I even got a call from my parents saying it was an a-hole move and I could have let her stay the night, and I understand I might be the a-hole because I kicked her out in the middle of the night, but at that moment, looking at my wife shaking, it was the best option. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? I think I might be the a-hole because I kicked her out in the middle of the night with no place ready to go. No, OP, you are not the a-hole, and for one very simple reason. You stood up for your wife, you protected her, you had her back when she was being bullied by her mom. For starters, her mom shouldn't have gone off on your wife like that. I mean, I googled the apple juice thing, and there are different opinions about it, but that is no reason to start screaming at a pregnant woman in the middle of the night just because she wanted to have some apple juice. Your mother-in-law was a guest in your home, a place where you and your wife should feel safe. And by removing her, you made it safe again for your wife. So good on you, OP, and you should not feel bad about this. You are not the a-hole. What do you guys think? Do you think OP should have handled it differently, or do you think he did right? Let me know your judgment in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see their judgment. Camilari says, how does your wife feel about it? I think she should have made a decision at night, and if she wanted to, you could have kicked her out during the day. But honestly, it's tricky as hell and you are an amazing boyfriend for standing with your wife. Help her overcome things and everything. And OP responds, my wife is currently undergoing therapy because she is really shaken up about whatever happened, and she confessed to me that her mother was criticizing everything and she was ready to tell her mom that she doesn't want her here, and she almost said it, but mother-in-law's comment about how she was going to be a bad mother hit her really hard. Thank you so much. I try to be a good husband, quite nervous about the father thing, but working on it. Mountain Goat 05 says, not the a-hole. Your in-laws are toxic people. I'm proud of you for protecting your wife from their garbage. They don't deserve a place in your family's life. And OP responds, thank you. For a second, I did really believe that they were getting better and not being toxic, but that was just a lie, I guess. Westkit says, even if apple juice was bad for the baby, and pasteurized apple juice should be fine, your mother-in-law's reaction was abusive and disgusting, not the a-hole. Your wife doesn't need her in her life. Anybody that calls you out for standing up for your wife is enabling abuse. So the community is totally backing OP as not the a-hole for protecting his wife against his toxic and abusive mother-in-law, which of course, as you already know, I agree with. So how about we move on with the update to see what happened after this. Thank you to everyone who responded to my post. Thank you to everyone who voted not the a-hole, because I was really conflicted for a few days after the incident, and I also agree that I could have controlled my anger better. A lot has happened since I posted. Me and my wife went to therapy, where she told me the reason she accepted her mother's request to come. It was because she saw how her mom treated her brother's kids, so she wanted that for our son too. And she really did believe that her mother had changed for the better, but as explained by our therapist, that some narcissists refuse to change. My wife and I have written one letter and sent it to every one of her family members who had told us we were in the wrong, which basically said that her mother never cared for her and never would, and we didn't want that around our children. And my wife wrote about several instances where she was subjected to emotional abuse, and even though everyone knew, no one did anything except for her grandma, her father's mother. She said that she is tired of always being the bigger person, but now she would be selfish for herself and our child. And if anyone disagrees, they are welcomed to cut contact, as she wouldn't miss people like that in her life. Something which shook both of us was when her father called and asked what happened, and she narrated everything. Her father, being the typical narcissist, tried to gaslight, but with my support and her therapy, she put her foot down and asked her father if he had ever cared about her, because it never felt like they did. She narrated every instance from her childhood to her adulthood, where she was subjected to emotional abuse, and how her brother always came before her. Her dad was silent throughout the call, and in the end, all my wife said is that for her, currently, she doesn't have parents, and hung up. By the end, all my wife did was cry, and I cried with her. I also called my parents, asking how could they not take my side, knowing the history, because they really love my wife. Which is why it was hard listening that I'm in the wrong, and they told me that it was because her mother called them in hysterics and told I was physical with her. I was not. After learning the truth from me, they came over to apologize, and my mother held my wife. I am a single child, so me and my wife are everything to them. I would like to point out, in the metropolitan area where we live, there are plenty of hotels, so I wasn't worried about my mother-in-law finding a hotel. She's loaded, so money isn't an issue. For now, we are just waiting for the little one to be born, and my wife is much happier and free from her toxic family. Well, this is great news, OP. Not only were you able to get rid of the toxic people in your and your wife's lives, which is fantastic, but also your wife was very assertive and called out her dad for everything they put her through, which I believe is a huge step forward for your wife, from being an abuse victim by her parents to actually standing up to them and telling them to F off and go no contact. And I think that's awesome. So once again, congratulations to the both of you. This is great news, OP. And now we move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Tales from Your Server, and it's by user RoadOdeLoad. Guy harasses ex-girlfriend at the bar until her boyfriend shows up. Oh, what a satisfying Friday I had. I work in a sports bar and grill in a reasonably small town. We're a popular hangout for the local college kids, as one of the only spots with a full bar and some decent grub. I love this because, contrary to popular belief, young people are usually the better tippers and just all around more pleasant to their servers than the older crowd. I don't know if it's because they've worked service jobs more recently or if they were just raised better, but it's noticeable and I really enjoy serving most of them. One drawback though is they are certainly more dramatic than the older crowd. Usually, if my middle-aged patrons bumped into someone they know, there's a quick hello and it's done. With these college kids, it's often either the best thing ever to spot your friends out and they get loud and excitable, or there's some sort of rift between the groups and they get loud and excitable. For example, we had a college-aged couple that came in a bunch almost every weekend that then split up. I'd see the guy from time to time getting loaded with his buddies, but the girls stopped coming in altogether. I figured she only ever came because he was bringing her here. Friday, we were having a ladies' night and she comes in with a small group of girls. There were maybe 5 altogether. They sat at a booth and ordered some cheap drinks and kept to themselves. Fast forward like half an hour, this guy and his buddies come in. Without realizing, they take seats at the bar directly adjacent to this girl and her booth. I didn't recognize them as the couple at first, but the guy spotted her, and let's just say it became immediately clear who left who, despite what he said. He started in with all these passive-aggressive and loud comments to his pals about how glad he was he'd drop that bitch who was weighing him down, looking desperately over his shoulder hoping she'd overhear him. She didn't, and if she did, she ignored him. He kept going with the insults for another moment or two before he got into some derogatory stuff about her breasts specifically, and the bartender told him he had to keep it down because he was bothering people. The night went on and all parties involved got more drunk, his a lot more than hers. But she and her friends ignored him. Eventually, they got up to go dance and he was quick to follow. I was lingering around bringing drinks to people and keeping tabs to be sure nothing escalated. This poor girl, he was really tearing into her. The especially psycho thing is he alternated between insulting her and begging her to take him back. I caught, "You ugly bitch, I never wanted to be with you in the first place. I was with all my exes while we were together." And, "You'll never do better than me, so you should take this chance while you have it. We can start over. I forgive you." From this pathetic guy in the same string of conversation. She kept blowing him off, and her friends who were taking notice kept breaking it up and relocating themselves. I was seconds away from having our bouncer spring him, but he seemed to cool off. That only lasted until she came to the bar, not anywhere near him, mind you, to get herself another drink. He starts saying all this stuff about, "You think anyone will ever want you like that? You can have me or you can have nothing, and I don't even want you. You were the worst decision I ever made. I don't even know why I'm giving you this chance." And on, until he was cut off by, "What are you saying to my girl, bro?" A towering guy sat down, put his arm around her, and was like, "Sorry I'm late, babe. Practice kept dragging. Can I help you, son?" He was 10 times more put together. Better spoken, better dressed, way less effing sad or terrifying than the guy who'd been bothering her all night. The pathetic one was so drunk at this point that he didn't recognize he was outmatched and started to launch into this incoherent screaming of, "She's a skank, a floozy, a bitch, and you better not touch her 'cause she's mine." To which the towering, calm guy stood up and took his jacket off and said, without raising his voice, "Oh, so we have a problem?" The guy's friends noticed this situation and came to collect him at this point, just before one of our staff could intervene, but this new guy followed him over to his friends. He got right in his face and said, "If you have a problem with her, you have a problem with me, so I think it's time to bounce." The drunk guy wasn't having any of it, but his friends were smarter, or at least soberer, and knew they didn't want trouble. Once they were gone, new guy went back over to this girl and says, "Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Isaiah. Sorry to get all involved like that. I hope I didn't overstep. It's just I could not listen to another second of that. Seriously, that guy is scary. That's why I went with the boyfriend thing instead of just saying, 'Hey, you suck, time to go.' I've got 3 sisters," and he set off all my alarm bells. I was wondering who'd bring a date to ladies' night. They'd never met. He was just a stranger who stepped in to protect her. They chatted a bit and he walked her out. They were back here for a first date today. Well, that girl was having a really lousy night. It's really good that somebody stepped up to help her out. That ex-boyfriend did sound like a drunk loser. Like OP says, there's no mistake as to who dumped who on that one. I'm not gonna overanalyze the situation because regardless of the reasons why they broke up or what happened between the two of them, there is no excuse to insult somebody like that or treat somebody like that. That's just not right. Special added bonus is that the two strangers are now going out on a date, which is, cool. And even if nothing happens between them, it's still good to know that there are people out there that are willing to step up to help somebody out. And I'll take that as a positive. So now let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user Little Bit Evil. Being a bad neighbor. I have a pretty smug neighbor who keeps trying to dictate rules to me on what I can do on my property. This guy is a small business owner and I think he feels like he can speak to me like an employee. One of his many petty complaints was that the mist from my lawn sprinkler gets on the chrome of his truck and trailers, causing water spots. He also tore down the existing wood fence on our property line to install a cheap vinyl fence for property value. Now he claims the fence on our property lines belongs to him, and he gets to approve anything I might hang or attach to the fence. This guy's a real dick. He's made it pretty clear he's an unreasonable and angry person. So, the petty revenge. I placed bird feeders along the fence line on garden hooks to encourage birds to crap on his truck and trailers. Ah, OP, petty and evil at the same time. I love it. Thanks so much for sharing this one, and don't forget to keep those feeders full at all times. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing and it is fantastic. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.